Pennies. Today we're going to be showing off the build that I'm going to be using on Ines Raya on launch day. I got it together pretty quickly. It is pretty solid. She's extremely good, and I'm pretty excited to go into this because she's very fun, and it seems like we might have another Freyna as far as mobbing on our hands. Can't say for certain, obviously. Freyna is kind of like weak to a lot of the new stuff, so it's going to be nice with Ines Raya. A lot of the stuff is going to be weak to electric. You'll be able to kind of crush everything, but we're going to jump in. Don't forget to like the video if it helped you out. We're doing Twitch streaming. We're live streaming this as well, so if you guys want to follow me on Twitch, it's in the description below as well as the pinned comment, and I hope you guys enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe as well if you feel that I've earned it, but let's jump into it. All right, so to kick it off, we're going to start with the Descendant mods, and then we're going to go into the Reactor components and the weapon of choice. So for the Descendant mods, there's a couple ways you can do if you just got Ines. You do not need to do the Time of the Hunting Grounds Transcendent mod. So I will show off two builds, and then we'll go into the gameplay on the second half of the video. If you guys would like to see gameplay, I will just cut the whole second half of the video to just be kind of like highlights from my live stream, and you guys can see exactly what she looks like. She's pretty insane. So this is going to be the Time of the Hunting Grounds build. So what we're doing is we're basically making everything tech with the Time of the Hunting Grounds. So your your third and first ability both get changed to tech. Floating Lightning, it has 3 charges instead of the 1 charge that it normally has, and then this is a dash instead of a charge, kind of like hand ability. And it does a lot of damage, but more importantly, it changes to tech, so you don't have to use a singular reactor for the kind of like other ability if you don't want to do that. But yeah, so that is the main thing that is doing. So what we're trying to do with this build is get our cooldown as low as we can get it, as well as get our crit as high as we can get it. Oops, I had Iron Defense in there. That is definitely not what we're going to do for the mobbing setup, so it's going to be Skill Insight. We are using 4 crit mods, so we are quite a bit over on crit. As it stands right now, the reason that I've got 4 crit mods in is because you can be pretty efficient and change out something like Focus on Tech into a crit mod if you wanted to. That way you can run like Focus on Singular with other setups. People will probably figure out how to get 100% crit. I know how to get 100% crit. It's just that you have to end up using a critical hit rate reactor mixed with max MP, and you need to remove MP conversion. And by doing that, our cooldown goes way down. So I do not prefer running the 3 crit mods while getting the 100% crit, because again, our cooldown goes way down. We need obviously that max MP there. Our passive basically makes it so max MP will give us more critical hit chance. So that is why you're able to do it, able to get the 100% crit without MP conversion. But MP conversion is so important in my opinion, because yeah, just so much cooldown, and that is a big thing, a big part of this build. So we are literally spamming all of our abilities: first ability, second ability, third ability, and then a little bit of range to help with the 4th ability and the 3rd ability. So our range is capped at 200%. So what that means is your range starts at 100%, guys. We only need 1 range mod to get it to our 200%. As you can see, the max expandable range is 200% on the abilities. So that is why we only need 1 range mod. And then we always want to use an HP mod. You might need a bit more tankiness than this if you do plan to do harder stuff. We haven't jumped into Void Erosion yet with her, but this build is definitely going to be very strong, I think, for Void Erosion. You might consider adding like Spear and Shield or maybe Iron Defense if you jump in there and have issues with survivability. But this build is very fun for sterile lands, and that's the hard spec ops as well as the hard spec ops in Echo Swamp. It does very, very good up to wave 10 all the way, and you are just spamming. It absolutely goes crazy. And then the other build, I'm going to show it off really quickly just because I have it here. This is for when I was first building it. I put Spear and Shield, Focus on Singular. This is when I was trying to do damage with the discharge ability. It does a lot of damage, guys. Like, it does a lot of damage, and the max increase, obviously 100%. This thing does a ton of damage. It's very fun to use, so if you don't want to use that build, you can run this, Focus on Singular. We are still using 4 crit mods, the same Focus on Electric, and then Focus on Singular instead of Focus on Tech, and then Spear and Shield can be replaced with range. I highly recommend using range. The only reason I had Spear and Shield in there because I was trying it without range, but I definitely recommend having range in for this build if you guys choose to go with this one. Yeah, that's going to be the modules. We'll jump into the reactor really quickly. So this is an all-rounder. This is not going to be a faction reactor. This is going to be an all-rounder reactor. So what I've got is a tingling mechanics reactor with skill cooldown and skill critical hit damage. This is mainly going to be for if you're using the Transcendent mod that makes all of your abilities tech. This is going to give you a giant amount of cooldown, obviously 7%. It makes it so we're up to like that 85%, I believe. If we look, yep, skill cooldown. We're up at about 85%. Keep in mind, you can only get 90% skill cooldown. So with the Hunter set and the Tingling Mechanics, we're at almost 90% cooldown without having to use anything else. And then the critical hit damage, it's obvious. We have 100% crit. We're critting like all the time. This is a giant increase to damage. If you guys did want to go for a faction reactor, Order of Truth and skill cooldown is probably what I would do, or Order of Truth and critical hit damage, because you don't really need the extra 7% cooldown because of how fast these stacks come off cooldown with this build. It has a 0.7 second cooldown already for the Q, and then for your second ability, it already has a 1.5 second cooldown. So you don't need the extra 7%. However, I do think you need the extra 20% from MP conversion still. That's just my opinion. And then as far as the reactor mounted, we have Secret Garden. So Secret Garden, if you guys didn't know, basically breaks any tech Descendant. When using a tech skill, grants the unique ability Pest Control. Pest Control gives you a 50% trigger rate to have a 10-second buff with a max stack of 3 that gives you right around like a 50% increase in skill power. It's pretty insane, to be honest. It does a lot of extra damage, makes you do a lot of extra damage once it gets stacking, and you are spamming tech skills, obviously. So yeah, you're going to be spamming tech skills. You're going to be getting a ton of stacks of this. And even though the trigger rate's 50%, our cooldown is so low that we're able to just continue doing it. And you'll see in the gameplay, you're just spamming your ultimate ability too and just keeping it on the ground everywhere. And it's super satisfying, super fun. And then, okay, let's jump into the modules, and then I will go into the mods that I'm using for the Secret Garden. So we're using 2-piece Hunter and 2-piece Annihilation. Now, guys, you can use Slayer if you really want. Again, this is just because I like having the extra little bit of tankiness, and the skill cost on this Descendant is kind of annoying to run on Slayer. So if you have that extra skill cost, that's why I believe that 2-piece Hunter and 2-piece Annihilator is the best. As far as roles, I'll kind of hover over them and talk about them. So Ox Power, Max HP, MP Recovery out of combat, no questions asked. That's the way you're going to want to go. Sensor, Max MP, and then MP Recovery. The Max MP is more important than ever in this case because her crit rate is directly affected by the Max MP. And then Annihilation Memory, MP Recovery Modifier. I have Gold Drop Rate, but I would like to have defense on here in the case that I ever go against physical damage. Gold Drop Rate's not that important for me at this point, but it's nice to have, obviously, a Gold Drop Rate that's gold quality. And then the Hunter Processor. All I make sure I have is the equipment drop rate. Really doesn't matter what you have as long as we get that HP from the Hunter Processor, as well as the 2-piece increase. As far as Slayer, you go for the same rolls. You do a little bit more damage for sure. Keep in mind that a lot of this Descendant's damage has to do with the additional damage coming from, for example, here we see Conductor does 63%. So having that skill power modifier is quite nice. But we don't do anything like focus on or like Electric Master or Tech Master or anything. It's just nice to have like kind of like a mixture of buckets. If you do Slayer, obviously you're getting a giant skill power buff. The only time Slayer is going to really help your damage is when you're trying to use Snare Acrobatics or the Discharge ability, because they have over 3,000% skill power. So that's the only time you're going to see the benefit of Slayer. I think Slayer will obviously increase our damage a little bit on, our second ability, our first ability, but I don't think it's going to be even close to the damage that our Thunder Snare does with all the modifier that we have already. And keep in mind, you can get more modifier if you want to go instead of, again, you can go like Master. You can go Electric Master. This gives us more, not Electric Master, Tech Master. This gives us more modifier. Instead of having our 6% cooldown there, you could get a little bit more modifier to do more damage with your smaller hitting abilities. But this setup is kind of good for those big ones. And then we'll go into the weapon really quickly. So the weapon is going to be Secret Garden. Right now, I'm just using what I was using for Lepic. But at the end of the day, you're going to want to pick any combination of critical hit damage, critical hit rate, with fire enhancement or electric enhancement or anything you really want to use. You could use Sweeping Squad as well instead of Weak Point Sight. It's really up to what you want to do. This is what I do with my Secret Garden. You guys can screenshot it if you want. But yeah, it does a ton of damage, so do not sleep on this weapon when you're in the middle of all of your rotations and doing your damage. This thing will absolutely truck, so definitely do not sleep on this weapon. It does a ton of damage. And for the Inversion reinforcement as well, I totally forgot about this. We're going to be doing MP Recovery and Max MP, Neuro Concentration Reinforcement, as well as Heightened Sensory Cells and Abyss Enhancement. as you can see, like it's a screenshot on screen, but you guys can run whatever you want here. The only thing I really recommend is making sure you have neuro concentration reinforcement. The MP just increases her damage with her Dark Current on her 4th ability. It's a very small increase, but it's nice to have the extra MP. And then having like Adrenaline Rush or Arcade Boost, you could absolutely go that way as well, the bottom 2 in the seasonal row. And then Heightened Sensory Cells, obviously make sure that we're kind of keeping ourselves as high of MP as we can be, even though we're spamming getting crits and then getting MP. It's very, very nice thing, obviously, being able to get MP back by critting, but Heightened Sensory Cells is that extra little bit that we need. So there it is. Yeah, and then obviously with Void Erosion, we can obviously enhance even more. So we'll be looking further into kind of updating this build going forward with all the stuff that we change. But that is going to be the Ines build. That's going to be mods, reactor, components, and the weapon. We'll jump over, obviously, you know, Voltia if you want to do Void Vessels, but right now I'm not using that. I don't have it mounted right. But yeah, this is going to be an Raya's build. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to follow me over on Twitch. We're live doing this. And then, yeah, subscribe if you feel that I've earned it. I appreciate you guys. Have a good rest of your day, guys. Peace out. Goodbye.